Hi, guys. Welcome to the LinkedIn Live session. This is an important topic which we spoke about, and I'm really excited about having this conversation with Nancy with me here. I'm Asha Saxena. I'm the founder and CEO of Women Leaders in Data and AI. I'm so excited about having this conversation with all of you and have Nancy Morgan with me here. Nancy, take it over and give your introduction.
Thank you, Asha. And I absolutely agree. This is an important conversation. I'm Nancy Morgan. I am the former U.S. Government Intelligence Community Chief Data Officer, or CDO, and a longtime federal government employee. I've been a leader at many levels in multiple organizations, but really important to talk about the implications for women leaders and our workforce and our male allies on this topic.
Nancy, such an important topic that we talk about in WLDA, Women Leaders in Data and AI, because we say that this journey is not just to be taken by only women leaders, but it's a journey to be taken with our male allies together. We all need to come together to understand that this is a real issue. And how can we really understand maybe the unconscious bias we may have as being women leaders or male allies? But really addressing this topic. I think they say that talking about and discussing this conversation is important so you can bring the awareness. And if we all have awareness, hopefully we all can do a little bit every day to make a difference. So I'm excited. I posted this article. When I read this article, Nancy, last week, I posted this article and we got tremendous amount of response on people, leaders who wanted to participate. We got response from men and women because this is a real issue and real problem. Just before we get started, I want to talk about, diversity. Why is this important and what makes it important? Personally, I tell you, I've been in this business in technology world, professional world for 3 decades. I never thought about it more than now, ever before. Especially, I think the pandemic made me think that, oh my God, we are all going on digital world. And guess what? The digital world is just being built by majority of one type of people. Only 12% of women are coding algorithms. And that was a concern for me. And that was the reason I started WLDA, hoping that if we all can come together and become conscious about building a better world. So when we are gone, maybe 50, 100 years from now, we'd left a better world. And so that was important to me. And Nancy, you've worked all your life in CIA and the public sector. Why do you think this topic is important to you?
So I think it's so important in terms of, we always talk about diversity in terms of thought and ideas, as well as diversity in terms of our workforce, in terms of our stakeholders. But it's how do we address diversity? How do we address equity? How do we address inclusion? All of these dimensions are part of this, and we all have to be thinking about how we build the solutions. But if we don't have the workforce and the teams to build those solutions, to work with partners to address those solutions, we're not going to get there. What's the line from Hamilton about being in the room and a seat at the table? That's really, in my opinion, a responsibility of women leaders to grow that participation and grow that. And that's how organizations like WLDA help. But it's all of us have a shared responsibility, and our male allies, to address these issues and concerns. Our workforce is stressed. Our workforce is burnt out in different ways. We're all juggling a lot, professionally, personally, things we talk about. How do we make the new working order work for all of us in a sustainable way?
I posted this article, The Great Breakup, which was the study between Lean and McKinsey. And they spoke about in Great Breakup, in the article covers, that women leaders are leaving their company at the highest rate ever now, which is really sad. You would think we are in this era where, technology advancements, we should be not talking about this at this point. But, it was surprising that the senior women leaders, more than ever, I mean, in WLDA, we talk about that all the time about career transitions, especially for the senior leaders. And the article also talks about the gap between women and men in senior roles, that these senior women leaders are quitting their jobs at the highest, largest ever been. And it's increased appreciation from the companies that prioritize career advancement. So there is there is attention companies are paying to it, but still we have this gap. When I posted this article, a lot of people who responded, I'm really excited that we actually have a Courtney Abercrombie who's here. Courtney, if you want to come on camera, I want to welcome you to our discussion. You were one of the first people who responded to that. And listen, I'm fond of you, Courtney, you know that, and we've tried connecting at conferences before. Why don't you do
timing.
I know, bad timing, but listen, we'll make it happen one of these days. So Courtney, you just give a quick introduction. I know you, I'm sure a lot of people on LinkedIn know you, but still give a quick introduction, and then I want to get you going with this topic, which I think is really on top of everybody's mind.
Yes. So just how am I even relevant to women leaders in data and analytics? Back in 2012, when there was like 3 chief data officers in the world, I was tasked by IBM with founding one of the largest chief data and analytics officer communities. And I feel like we did that. And it ended up growing to something like 10,000 worldwide CDAOs. So it was an amazing journey, and to get to see how women were progressing through that. One of the largest roles for executive women actually was in this field. It was like 25%, which was sadly the highest that of any executive role out there. Probably right next to chief marketing officer, I think. So that was fantastic to get to watch women progress and hear some of the stories that they had to go through with men mistaking them for can you get the coffee and stuff like that. And so it's just like, I'm so thrilled that we're having these discussions, and Asha, that you're enabling these discussions too, because those needed a platform to happen. So I'm very happy. Today, I am the CEO of AI Truth. I had been basically an AI incubator from within, so an intrapreneur, so to say, for IBM, and was flying around meeting with all these global 500 companies. And I kind of turned into a data science anthropologist, if you will, watching data scientists in their natural habitats along with the executives who were doing AI and machine learning. And so, I said, hey, things are kind of going wrong with the operations of these data science teams that are doing some of the most life-altering AI and ML out there. And I made this big decision that, someone's got to take one for the team, take some time out, and start looking at how can we do this a little more responsibly. So that's what I've been doing.
Thank you for your work. Really appreciate you joining us on this conversation. So on the topic of great breakup, Nancy, you and I have seen and talking to all the leaders within WLDA, and we see this as a reality. When I saw this article, as I was reading through it, it's like, oh my God, yes, and yes, and yes. So it was like so relatable to me personally, because I've been talking to all the senior leaders in the industry, and this is real. This is a real problem. Nancy, your thoughts on what you've been hearing about reality. When I saw this topic, I don't know how I got a little echo there, but Nancy, your thoughts on the great breakup and the article.
Sure. And I think it's the thing that I was building on before. We're seeing it in our teams. We're seeing it in our colleagues, the stress. We're having conversations about people. They don't want to leave working, but they want different conditions for their working. They want different conditions for success. So how do we create that as women leaders? What are the responsibilities we have, not just going back to business as usual pre-COVID? Look, I came from the intelligence community where not all work could be done remotely. Sometimes that just wasn't possible due to classified information. Although I will say that in the IC and DoD, we are challenging thinking on that and trying to experiment with the art of the possible. But for all of us, we're juggling a lot professionally and personally. How do we create those conditions? And I think the organizations that are going to thrive, that are going to attract and retain the talent they need to meet the challenges in the future, are the ones that are rethinking how we structure work, how we structure teams, what flexibility can we give people? And so I think that's a dimension of this, of the kinds of flexibility people want. How do we make it flexible for the employees and flexible to meet the mission needs of the organization and their clients? So that's one dimension that I think we all need to talk about.
I think the word balance, the hybrid environment is real. And I think a lot of they talk about the future of work and how that will impact organization. I think that's really critical. And I think that goes for both genders. I think now men want that same environment to be able to have a hybrid environment. Courtney, what do you see when you talk to the leaders in your network about this real problem of the great breakup?
Well, I think a lot of things are going on. It's hard to get in as a woman. You know, like there's so many, as we just discussed, there's so many men in the roles, and they take for granted that they naturally are going to have lunch together. They're naturally going to be given more opportunities to network together because they just have the, you know, just like women, when we come together, we have the desire to talk to each other, and we know each other's issues, and we, you know, we kind of migrate to each other. And I think that whether guys mean to do that or not, you know, they have to make a conscious effort not to lock us out, because we just get locked out. And you find yourself sitting there alone at lunch when you could be having opportunities to talk to senior executives, or you find yourself, you know, relegated to the one who's doing the work when everybody else is all out there with their visibility, beating their chest and, you know, saying, look at all the stuff that I've done. Sometimes you find yourselves, you know, left out of the very crucial conversations that guys go, I never even thought about that. You know, I guess I could have invited you or said something about your work on that call, but I didn't really think about it. And it's like, but these are the things that don't give us those opportunities, that make us feel locked out. And then we just want to break up, right? We're like, that's it. If I'm shut out, if I have no visibility, I have no way to participate in executive networks or executive discussions. And I'm sorry, but I'm going to say something probably controversial, but mentorship is not freaking enough. I don't want to hear any more about mentorship. Support. Go to HR, go to bat, get that freaking salary raise, and keep these women happy, because they're the ones who are making the results. And if you don't believe that, if you're a guy listening right now and you don't believe that, why don't you look at some of the venture capital firms that are investing in women CEOs and stuff? They're the ones delivering right now in some of the worst times, whereas the male-run companies don't necessarily deliver nearly as much profit and return. So, and it's a no number. So, I mean, you know, and it's the same for inside the workforce. Women are delivering. You just got to give them a chance and don't lock them out.
You know, I tell you
Courtney,
something.
I'd like to build on something you were saying, Courtney. It isn't just about mentoring, and it isn't just coaching. It's really sponsoring and really helping create some of those opportunities, create some of those connections. And then for our allies, it's not just women doing it, but men doing it. I've had the good fortune to have men and women as allies and sponsors in my career. And also something I'm big on is, how do we pay it forward? When we get to a next level, how do we pay it forward? That's really important for us to think about at every level of leadership. How can we create those opportunities? How we can look at the invitation lists. When we see panels, Asha, we've talked about this in WLDA, when we're invited to speak at events, we're starting to look at who else is on the panels and giving the sponsors a bit of a hard time or saying no to things if they're not more diverse and inclusive on their panels.
You know, I'm going to build on, because I think this is really where we are trying to bring something to notice to everybody who's listening on the LinkedIn, is that when you talk about sponsorship, I want to build on that, is that not just the sponsorship for a woman from a man or a woman from a woman, but also a man can get a sponsorship from a woman or a man. So it's a bi-directional support. So I also want to make sure that the allies don't think, male allies don't think that they're only stepping forward because they want to save the women. They're not. They are peers who are coming to the table to learn from the women leaders, because they want to start seeing the women leaders as peers, as allies. Their job is to see how can they become better and how can they influence other male allies to learn from the female leaders. So it's not just about providing support, but also be a receiver of support and be able to see the women leaders as true leaders. I think that is something which I personally feel that the men can, if they want to take a step, they should say, I want to learn from a woman. I want to learn from how she leads. I want to make sure that I respect her presence and I respect when she wants to raise her voice. A lot of times, you know, that people talk about microaggression, the women leaders are not heard. You know, there are 8 men on the table. There's 1 woman on the seat, and they're talking, And even if a woman wants to talk, they overtalk or repeat what she's saying. And that is something about be seen. Yesterday, I was on a conference call, and I made sure I thanked the man, my peer. We were two chairs for the event. And I thanked him in front of everybody. And I said, I want to just let you know, Chris, I want to thank you because I was seen today. And I want you to know that the fact that you gave me a platform to speak helped me be seen. And I think if men only made that one little tiny thing in every meeting to see the minority, it doesn't have to be women. Like even though our organization is women leaders, we talk about diversity. And I think, Courtney, your name, your organization name could be AI Truth. My organization could be Women Leaders. Nancy could be the chair of moderation. But we all stand for that. We all want diversity. We want a fair world. When we are gone, when we are not here 50 years from now, we want to make sure, hopefully we live for 30 to 50, but as long as we live, hopefully when we are gone, we all are making a little difference to make this world a better place. And I think that's really what this discussion is about. And I mean, Courtney, you didn't have to take time out. Nancy, you don't have to take time out from your busy schedule to have this conversation. But we care. We care about the world we live in. We care about the professional world we live in. And I think if this microaggression goes away, where you feel that you're better than somebody else, and if you are more humble leader to really acknowledge people who are in the room, is so important. And I'm going to pass it on to Nancy and then Courtney, is that what are you seeing and hearing? I feel that microaggression and let me just see me when I'm in the room is important, even if I have a title. I don't want to be a token woman. Nancy, I'll pass it on to you.
Wow, microaggressions is an ongoing topic, an ongoing threat as well, in addition to, whether people are having the great breakup. I think part of it is, why do people want to come to work or come to engage in an organization or event where they don't feel they're going to be treated well, where they don't feel respected, where they don't feel heard? So all of us have unconscious bias. We can't help that's, the background we have. How can we become more self-aware? How can we become aware and call out the behavior or pause the behavior if someone else is not being inclusive, if someone else is not being respectful? That was another key point about this great breakup, is in some cases, people are changing organizations or choosing to work remote because they're not facing as many direct microaggressions. But I'm also worried about the trade of how do they keep their network strong to grow their career advancement if they're not, quote unquote, in the room. So how are we going to be more inclusive in this hybrid world? And that takes thought, it takes planning, it takes technology platforms, it takes logistics, but it's not just being on the call, but engaging. And how do we do that in a hybrid world? So all of us have to rethink some of our business practices to do that. And all of us have to be more self-aware and acknowledge and say to someone, I realize I may have done something to upset you. Let's talk about it. How can we behave differently going forward?
And I have to say, you bring up a really good point, Nancy, about making sure that they have the seat on the table. Courtney, what is your thought on that?
Well, I want to come back to the microaggressions, because I think there's some specific microaggressions that we all can experience, and at least I'm going to address it so that we can address it together and give some women some things to do that they can do in these situations. One, I think if we are a more assertive personalities, like we are right here, you, Asha, me, and Nancy, we're speak up kind of people, right? And I think we naturally will speak up when we see something that we think is going wrong in a meeting, and we should feel encouraged to do so. As a matter of fact, when I was just in Boston sitting around a table having a discussion, I see that this guy keeps over talking this very extremely qualified woman, an MD and a PhD in data science. I was like, wow, an MD, you're a doctor, a medical doctor, and you're also got a PhD in data science. Okay. That's fantastic. I can't even believe it. I want to hear what she has to say. I'm trying to listen to her, and this guy starts talking over her. And I'm like, I just stared straight at her, and I never gave him one eyeball the whole time, until he finally stopped. And then she was able to talk. But I mean, we have to, those of us who can, should definitely divert attention back to the people who aren't as, maybe they're more introverted or, are not as extroverted as some of us are. I think that's one method that we can actively do today to help other women speak up. The other part of this is it can be hard. I had a conversation. I had a boss. He's really a really great guy. He just didn't realize there were some things that could change. And I had to have a really pretty uncomfortable conversation. I'm not like hugely confrontational about these kinds of issues, because how do you ask for help? I think as women, we're worried that if we do ask for help from our bosses, we could be seen as lesser than maybe some of the male counterparts that we have. But we have to push. We can't just let ourselves fall by the wayside. And I did notice that boss was giving more mentorship and more opportunities to talk to the other members of the team that were men. And I was like, I just flat out said, I need to have a very serious conversation with you. I know this is going to be a little bit uncomfortable, probably for both of us, quite frankly, but can I just be really honest with you about something? And he was like, oh yeah, absolutely. I want to hear what you have to say. I didn't realize, that there was something going on. And it took so much courage. I was literally like shaking just to have this conversation, because this is a very, very high up individual. And I finally just said, I just need more of your time. I want a weekly meeting for 30 minutes uninterrupted, because we had set a time to meet on a regular basis, and we were hybrid. So sometimes we got to meet in person, but most of the time we were meeting virtually. And he just kept missing those appointments because other things would just come up. He's like, oh, I got an emergency today or whatever. And I finally just had to call him out on it and say, look, I need your attention. I need your time. I need your direction on this particular thing right here. And you can't, as a woman, you can't come to the table already feeling lesser than. You have to call it out for what it is and say, look, I've noticed that the last few times we've met, there's been an emergency that came up or whatever. We need time to talk, and just lay it out on the line. I mean, sometimes you just have to have those insanely uncomfortable conversations. And when you do, direct message me. I will give you a virtual high five and say, good job for standing up for yourself. Those are the hardest.
I have to share some of the chats I'm getting from the audience here. Melissa Marr says we need more female mentors to help women navigate their careers, not leave them. She also talks about mentoring alone is not enough, as Courtney and Nancy, you mentioned. Maria Villar actually said, be unapologetic about sponsorship, which I think is really great. Richa Tiwari said, the biggest difference I've seen is someone taking my name in the room. Yeah. I love that. She said, room I was not invited in, and that's mostly sponsorship from male peers, and that has made significant progress in my career. That's pretty cool. That's really cool. Melissa Drew is saying, sponsorship has an impact, not just talk. A front seat leader is one that shows up and helps to open the door. For Richa, even if I'm not there in person to step through immediately, they're helping to keep the door open. I think that is so great. These comments are so great. I want to thank you, Richa, Maria, and Melissa Drew, to comment. Here, Rosemary actually is jumping in. Rosemary Walsh just said, yes, on asking help from Boost. I asked this question at the very end of the chat. During our session, the Chuck Saya, we had a TED Talk speaker, Courtney, who really had a great conversation on leadership, and it was not so much about just women leadership, in general leadership. And I think that's really interesting point. So I think yes, we do need people supporting talent. And I don't think any woman wants a mercy or handoff. What we are saying is recognize the talent. When there is a talent in the room, recognize the talent and don't dismiss it because they're the minority. And I think let's talk about the opportunity, right? Because every challenge has an opportunity, and we are so blessed that we can do something about it. We can, raise the voice and do something about it. So what are the opportunities? So personally, I'll share, and then I would love to go around and say, what are the opportunities here for people who want to do something about it? what can people do? And I would say that the first thing I've seen is that, in WLDA, we have mastermind circles where peer-to-peer networking, a peer-to-peer exchange has really helped. I've personally seen where when you have a group where you can actually talk to, so have a community. If, at work, if you are at work and if you can create a community, there are employee resource groups, can you build a safe place where you can actually share, even if it's two friends? You have organizations, Courtney, you have an organization, I have an organization, there are women in data, women in, there's so many organizations you can go to, see where it feels good. Your company has organizations. You can handpick people in your organization to create this group of support system. And I think it's really important that you have a place where you can go and talk and learn from each other. I think for leaders, period, without gender, without age, without discrimination, diversity in leadership, diversity is important, but in leadership, it's important about being a lifelong learner. What can you do? And even if you are a male CEO, you're top of your game, be humble about what can you learn and what can you pay forward. I think leadership is about being humble, being a lifelong learner, being able to pass forward the baton and be able to make sure that you're promoting people. I say that every day one person can promote somebody else. Somebody said to me that women don't, even yesterday, they said, women don't support women, period. And I said, so we are changing that. I said, you and I can change that. Let's promote women. When I see Nancy, I say, yay, Nancy's so smart. I want to learn from her. Or when I see Courtney, I say, give her a big hug and say, thank you, Courtney. And so promote each other, right? It's about cheering for each other and making sure when you see a woman leader, you do a little extra. If you're a man or a woman, do a little extra for the minorities. Make sure you step out, call their name, recognize them, and do something little. And I think that's really what the opportunity is for each of us. Nancy, I'll pass on to you.
Thank you, Asha. So building on all great thoughts, some of those thoughts are the connectedness and how we help people build connections, grow their network, open doors for them, keep the door open. I think that was one of the comments from one of the participants in the chat today. Keep those doors open and encourage people to go through doors they might not have thought about going through. Don't be shy about reaching out and connecting. I think, as Courtney said, we're not shy on this call, but for other people, that's not necessarily comfortable. So give people safe ways to practice that or help them make those connections. I think something else to consider is internal pathways within organizations, not just external, but are we helping people grow and thrive in their organization? And are we thinking about other experiences they can have? I came from big government agencies. There are lots of activities besides your direct projects. Are we suggesting women and more diverse participants in those, taking a non-traditional choice as someone to participate in some of those activities? Or something that I like to do as a woman leader, bring a +1. I like to ask, who's your +1 for the event? And I don't necessarily mean your spouse by marriage, although they can be a great supporter, but I mean in the workplace. How are you giving someone an opportunity to see and learn and grow their network? So think about who are you bringing to events and maybe give some of those other people in your organizations a chance. Men and women, more diverse populations, more inclusive populations, a non-traditional choice. And I think when we talk about professional development, not just domain expertise or technical expertise, no question, but skills, those team skills, those management and leadership skills, diversity, equity, and inclusion, give people environments to practice their skills, give them constructive feedback and grow and celebrate when they try something, when they succeed, and also help people when the going gets tough. Something I like to talk about as part of interview processes is tell me about a project when it went south, because I think you really learn when the times are difficult. When the times are going well, you tend to race to the next good thing. But really that introspective time and how are we helping people break apart and inspect when things didn't go well, why, and most importantly, what they can do differently. So that's a big technique I'm proud of in terms of agile methodologies that I really believe in, is how do we think about doing it differently the next time? And I think that's a role for women leaders.
I love that. I love that +1 idea, like bring another woman with you, or bring another minority with you. There are some suggestions here from the team, from the chat. I want to just quickly read that for you guys. Maria Villar said about the sponsorship impact. No, I think I read that one. I'm going to go to Rosemary. Yeah, Rosemary is saying that when I think I'm very direct asking for help, I'm not getting response that indicates my boss is hearing my request for help. So it's important that you're direct, ask for help. And Kamaini is saying that I personally would like to see more C-suite women truly channel sponsorship for +1 as well. Still a rarity in corporate circle. I agree with you, Kamaini. That's why I think it's so important to just go out and say, today I will sponsor one woman or sponsor one minority. But I think tagging along 1+ is a great idea. I'm going to take it to heart, Nancy. And I think I've tried doing that, and I'll just share with you what I've tried doing is that I've gone to, my goal in WLDA right now is to make sure that women leaders are seen, and they're seen as a thought leader. So we've partnered with CDO Magazine, we've partnered with AI Summit, we've partnered with organizations to make sure that every panel has minimum 50% women leaders. And we make sure that we promote the visibility of the talented leaders. So they are seen, they are heard, and they can actually talk and add value in the organization. Maria Villar said, buy from women in a corporate sales and consulting. I love that. Buy from women if in corporate sales or consulting job, make them rainmakers in their company. That's get them attention. That is, oh my God, that's an amazing, Maria. Thank you. I love that idea, because if women are making, it's economics, right? If women are making money, they are seen. So really make them real players. Huge agreement on when programs went south. Rosemary mentioned, and Kalyani said, when women support each other, we all raise up together. Cheers to that, Kalyani. I love that. Courtney, you heard a lot from the people who are listening to us. Tons of comments. I mean, I can keep going on, but tons of comments. And I think I'm such an important topic, Courtney. What do you think is the opportunity for us? What can we all do more of?
Well, one, I do like the idea. So let me just name it for what it is. We act like, and I heard this from actually Ursula Catton long time ago, like back in 2013. And she said, we act like as women, there's one seat at the table, and it causes this horrible competitive thing amongst women to take each other down somehow, And she said, why don't we fight equally as hard to get more seats at the table? And I was like, oh my God, for some reason, it was just one of those no duh kind of moments, but it just like hit me. And I was like, yeah, why don't we? That's just completely stupid of, the way that a lot of women think in the work world. They think there's only that one executive seat and we all have to fight over it. And it's just, we've got to change our thinking as women. And I will be just completely honest. I mean, most of the help that the really big fights, the really big battles that people had to go to help me get elevated in my own career, they were men that helped me because they were in the position to do something. It wasn't other women typically in my career trajectory, at least. It was men. And they were, fantastic sponsors and allies to have those horrible discussions with HR. And let's just face it, HR is not friendly to women. I don't think they are on many fronts, even though most of them that I've encountered have been women, which is ironic to me and horrible. But the other thing that I hear a lot, so there's, first of all, change your mindset from thinking about one seat at the table to let's get more seats at the table. The second thing I would say is I've heard from a lot of women about imposter syndrome. I personally, that's not a thing for me, but I have a different attitude about life, right? But
I was talking to somebody over this weekend. They were saying the same thing, imposter syndrome. It's a very real thing.
And I would say this, if I can, for everyone who is suffering with this imposter idea, I would tell you to think more like a man. They're not thinking that much. When they sit at the table, when we sit at the table, let's just contrast for a second. A lot of us, when we sit at that table, the first thing we're thinking is, what are they thinking? Not how qualified we are, not what we're going to say about things, but a lot of us out there are thinking, what are they thinking about me? And I would beg you, don't think like that. No guy sitting at that table is sitting there thinking, oh, what did they think about me? What did they think about me? No, they're trying to figure out, how am I going to get this person to do what I want? How am I going to get that person to do what I want? And how am I going to get this person to do what they want? So think like a man, I guess, in this case. Like, they're not thinking about that. Women, in some ways, we're thinking on so many levels at once. Try to challenge yourself when you're, to think just linearly like guys do, right? It's a strength that we think about so many things at once, but it's also sometimes a weakness for us. And I think it can, sometimes help us think that we are imposters when in fact we just really aren't. And you should think about instead of thinking about you might be an imposter, you should think of how much qualifications you yourself have. Write them down in advance of any important meeting so that you remember your worth. And then you go to that meeting and own it like a boss.
Courtney, I want to take it one step further. Women aren't applying for certain positions when they don't think they meet more than 100% of the requirements. It makes me crazy. Such talented women who are missing out on things because they don't put their name in the hat, or a sponsor doesn't put their name in the hat. We have got to get past, yes, I want people to have the qualifications, but there are so many ways to meet those qualifications. Women are very hard on themselves on whether they meet qualifications to apply. And what I try and give counsel to women on is have a conversation with the organization, reach out to the person hiring, talk to them about it. You may bring all sorts of other things to the table that they didn't even think about needing in the position. So that's an important aspect as well, is women are self-selecting or denying some things. And I think it's partly tied to that imposter system, and it just makes me crazy.
Yeah, I hate it when women deselect ourselves. Well, even when it comes to family. So for those who are listening, who are maybe a little bit, younger, starting their family, and you're thinking, okay, I don't know if I can do this job at this level and also have my family. You know what? Just give it a try. Go ahead. See if you can. And you know what? Give yourself the benefit of the doubt. Just try it first. And then if it isn't working out, you can always do something about that after you've already accepted the position and you're in it. You can do something later, but don't deny yourself before you even had a chance to try and understand if you could do the role. Because I see that a lot of women come to this fork in the road and they feel like it's family or it's job. And sometimes it is family or job. I'm not going to say it isn't, but at least give yourself a chance to try it and just give it a shot. And then if it's not working out, nothing's permanent. Guess what? Nothing is permanent. You can always go back. It's fine, but give yourself a chance.
Exactly. And I think these are all recommendations. I hope we all can do one thing. And I love this. You know what, Courtney, we all today, and everybody who's on the chat, I would ask everyone, today or this week or by next week, commit to promoting one woman. Just do something to make sure you identify one woman, and you're going to, they say, you be the change you want in the world. So make sure you can do that for somebody else, and hopefully they will do it for someone else. So let's start the chain today to make sure we will promote one woman and do something good behind their back. We'll either praise them, promote them, and they don't need to know, but you will make sure you promote somebody. And I think that's how we create the change. And as long as we all do our part, hopefully we will change, all the comments we spoke about that the women think that there's one seat. Let's change that mindset and start from here and just commit to that. Would you commit, Nancy, Courtney? And I'm going to ask everyone on the chat who's listening, please commit. Just say, yes, you will commit to promote. Nancy, do you commit?
Yes, I'm all in.
Courtney, you're all
always
in?
Always have, always will.
Wonderful. And I will promise that I will continue the journey of promoting the women I see and make sure that they're getting ahead. I'm going to share comments. I'm getting more comments here. Sue Tripathi is saying, how do you ensure you have a seat at the table when someone else has taken your work and run with it? I would always say, listen, you're always going to have that. You're never going to, it's not a fair world. It's just learning how to make sure that you continue paying forward, and hopefully someone else will watch for you. Do you have any comment on that for Sue, Courtney, or Nancy?
Yeah, I agree. And it's very, very frustrating. And any individual who's going to do something like that is just an underhanded individual to begin with, woman or man. And so, the best thing you can do is just have your network around you at work that you feel trusted, are trusted individuals that you can have ears to the ground. I mean, I hate to say it, but I had a very lucky, situation when I would have situations like that happen where I had networked with a whole lot of people. You just have to make sure that everybody around you, the way you get around that is you have to out strategy them. It's like chess. If you know someone's going to go and try to take credit for your work and they continue to do that kind of thing, you have to go outside your comfort zone, and you're going to have to just make friends with a lot of the people in that same circle. And you're going to have to tell them about everything you're doing and keep a regular communication schedule, like set it on your calendar so that you're updating. The people who got the highest in the companies where I've been had always been communicating with everybody on regular basis. They called it a management system, where you literally make like a list of people that you're going to invite every week to update on what you're doing, and you do it very consistently. And that way, when it comes time for someone to be on a phone call, then those people will be outed for their stupidity quickly, because other people will have known that that's not your work.
And I think that's where the challenge is, right? Where women don't like promoting themselves. Women don't like talking about the work they do. They want to
It's uncomfortable.
do the work and they go out. Nancy, any comment on that?
So building on what Courtney said, it is leveraging that network of yours, but it's also documenting what you've done and documenting your contributions and making those are known. So that is part of selling yourself, but it doesn't have to be overt sales, but that documenting so people know what were your contributions. And we as women leaders, making sure the contributions of our team members, most of us didn't succeed on our own. We had people helping us. So who were the team members who contributed? That's women, that's minorities, that's our more diverse workforce. We have to demonstrate that same inclusion and that same support for our people. And if we see someone giving credit for someone else's work, can we call it out? Can we put a checkmate on that and say, wait a minute, Sue contributed to that, or Sue was actually the author on that? That's not a comfortable thing to do, and it might be the right time and forum to do it. But we as women leaders also have to help balance the scales on that.
I want to go back to the imposter syndrome, where Rosemary is saying reverse imposter syndrome. I'm asking too often whether other people in my role are qualified to be making decisions, especially not even having the listening skills when they don't have some other critical skills and perspective. And I think I'm going to just read quite a few, and then we'll come back to the conversation. Richard said, preparation and experience helps remove that self-doubt of imposter syndrome. I oftentimes surprise how basic other folks at the table sound, but impressed about their confidence. It ultimately comes down to practice and fake it till you make it. And then lots of yeses. Everybody's saying yes to committing that they would support a woman this week and next week. So tons of yeses. So you know what? I think our work is done if we can make a change. And I think if we all make a tiny bit of change and continue making that little change in our life, and hopefully we can inspire others, right? The whole point here was that we could have this conversation and we can inspire people who are here and who hopefully will listen to this LinkedIn live recording afterwards, hopefully making change a tiny bit and create the movement around this topic.
And Asha.
Yes.
Everybody who is on right now should definitely on LinkedIn right this second, friend or whatever you want to call it, connect with me and Asha and Nancy, and we will definitely, that way you have access to our network as well. And that's another thing that I extend to as many women who are trying to be up and coming. I have access to so many, executives that I want to extend always an invitation to women who are trying to move up. So, just connect with me and the rest of us too. So,
and I want to say that, yeah, and there are a lot of Builder members, Courtney, on the chat right now who are actively participating. I tell you, I am so inspired by the women I interact and women leaders in data and AI, and they are inspirational. Every day I feel I'm lucky to be surrounded by these women. My son was actually saying to me, he said, "You look so happy. you love these women who you work with now. It's like, doesn't even, so I'm working on the weekends and he's like, oh my God, it looks like you're having fun all the time. We are doing a retreat in April. So we went to Amelia Island to do the site visit and we had a great time while we were preparing for the retreat. The gala and summit, oh my God, I'm so excited. Courtney, I'll ping you later. If you can come to New York next week, you have to come because we're having a fabulous, we're going to talk about emerging tech. In the morning, the summit is Web3, Metaverse, AI. And we actually have a mayor of Miami who's actually sending one of the executive director from Miami Ventures to talk about how they support WLDA and the women leaders in technology. And then in the evening, we're actually having a fabulous gala. Actually, I'm going to have a Broadway show opening. So if you can make it, you're not going to see a gala like that ever.
Wow.
Our opening act is going to be Lion King and then Hamilton. So
whoa, that sounds like a lot of fun.
It's going to be amazing. So that's what I'm
going to
saying.
have FOMO is what I'm going to have.
I know, but our summit and gala is going to be a memorable November 3rd event. So anybody who's interested can ping me and send a message, or you can go on our website and find out about it. But also, if you're interested in about peer groups, please reach out to me or Nancy or anybody on our team to find out about the peer-to-peer community we've built here with senior leaders. The goal was to build senior leaders, and hopefully the senior leaders will pass on the baton and bring the younger women up. And there's tons of information. I cannot thank you, Courtney, for saying yes to joining. Nancy, thank you for being my partner. You're always saying yes to doing anything you can to forward this cause. And I so love your participation and your passion. I want to thank you both for being here. And if I could applaud, if there was a music to applaud, I would applaud both of you for your contribution to the society, to what we are creating, and to the legacy you women and being role models you're creating. So thank you. Thank you so much, Nancy. Thank you, Courtney.
Well, thank you, Asha. And let me just say, as a relatively still new member of WLDA, the WLDA network is phenomenal. And what they do for each other, for me, in the time that I've been with WLDA, professionally, personally, getting through family struggles, a lot of us are, I don't like to use the word balance, I'll say juggling, surviving lots of different things. An incredibly supportive network, incredible in terms of building more support, giving people a safe place to talk about these very challenging issues and to talk through solutions. So you have been instrumental in setting that up, but it's really nice to see in a viral way, and I mean good and viral in this way, of the support that grows through that kind of organization. And I think, Courtney, to key on something, doing a little sleuthing about you right before this meeting, in terms of what we're doing in the world of AI and machine learning, if we don't have women in the room, and Asha and I have talked about this, if we don't have women as part of the teams designing, building, looking at trusted, responsible, and ethical use of AI, we're in trouble. This country's in trouble. So we all have to be not only in the room and a seat at the table, but actively helping drive the future we want to see. So I think this is a great combination of things that converge together.
Couldn't agree more. Thanks for inviting me to this and to have this conversation and give a platform to have this conversation. So I can't appreciate you guys enough. And I'm so glad for what you're doing for women, Asha. And I'm so jealous too, because I love looking at all the pictures and seeing all the fantastic.
We have to figure out, Courtney, we have to figure out how to make you one of us.
That'd be great. Okay. I know we all get so busy in our own little worlds, don't we?
Yeah. Well, with that, let's say thank you to everybody. I know, please say thank you to all our listeners. They are part of the family. It's so nice to have everyone who are contributing, asking questions. Thank you so much. Take care. Until next time.
Thank you.
Thank you.